Just he will.
All right. Hi, everyone. All right. Okay, already. Okay, so today we're going to talk about, we were supposed to be talking about the state of the APIs, but then I realized that we can never not talk about APIs without talking about data, which is a really interesting point in Web3 space. So we're going to start from there first. Now, when we really talk about blockchain data, even as we speak right now, there might be hundreds and thousands of transactions that might be happening all over the blockchain. People might be buying their first NFTs or like selling their first NFTs or digital assets online or probably like trading crypto. And then there are user set which might be interacting with different set of dApps or protocols or different set of platforms in general, right? And with all these interactions and all of these activities and all of these transactions that's happening on blockchain, it comes with like a lot more data, right? And I think one of the really interesting pain point in this Web3 space is really the abundance of data, which is a really weird problem to have because I'm going to tell you why. Like, quick review, like, my name is Krinza. I lead developer relations at Anchor. We are building decentralized Web3 infrastructure. I'm going to tell you what that means. You might have seen me around Developer DAO a lot, but before really joining Web3, I was a data scientist, so I've built products. I've worked with a lot of data and stuff. And I think one of the things that really hooked me into this space and like the idea of blockchain is really the fact that anyone can come in and they can make use of the data in whichever and whatever way they want, right? I mean, that's the core promise of Web3, that anyone can use the data without having permission or centralized authority. Now, this wasn't the case in Web 2. What really used to happen was like data was always there with companies, but they used to hash it. The sharing of data was considered as like illegal or immoral because that used to be the policy. And one of the things that shifted the entire perspective of the data for me as a data scientist was the fact that, okay, data is available, right? So I entered into this space. I'm like, let's explore. And when I started exploring, this is the first realization that I had. That, okay, data is available. Sounds good, looks great on paper, but it does not readily mean that it's accessible as well. In my head, my mental model was like, I could query, like, select all from Ethereum, and it could give me, like, CSV file and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, this is not happening. Like, how do we navigate that? And then I was like, okay, like, to learn all of this stuff, like, I'm a hands-on person. So I'm like, I need to work with certain group of people, right? And that's where I meet this team, Anchor, which they're like, okay, we're building infrastructure layer, like that's basic stuff. We work on data, we work on indexing, and I was like, sounds good. Let's work together. And they had this opening and blah, blah. So I started working. Okay, so first things first, like data availability does not readily mean accessible. Now the question here is that, how do we make sure that this data that we're talking about, which is available, it exists somewhere in the world, it is on chain, like it is somewhere, but how do we make sure that it's also accessible to developers? Not just accessible, but it's also scalable to work with, it's easier, it's faster to query with. And I think to answer this question, we just have to like go back a little bit and like review the Web3 stack of how data actually travels from the base layer of like the blockchains to the applications. We're building DeFi applications, we are building NFT applications, multi-chain this and that, and there's just a lot of things happening in the ecosystem right now. All right, so the first thing that we have is the chains. So that's like a protocol layer that we call it. Be it Ethereum, be it Polygon, be it like Avalanche, Phantom, Solana, all these chains, they consist, like this is where the blockchain starts. So it's like, okay, we have built this blockchain. I mean, Bitcoin's the father, that's the daddy chain, right? Now, what really happens, I think to understand how to like interact with all of these chains and how to read and write data off of it, we have to like go back and understand what blockchain is. Now, this is something that I know everyone knows here, like I have to like repeat myself, but then this is like simplest thing that we have to understand. That a blockchain is basically a set of nodes. Like every blockchain consists of nodes. Think of nodes as like a piece of software that's running on a computer. Now, every node, every computer in the network, they store a replica or a copy of the blockchain's entire state. So whenever you update the state, whenever a transaction happens, it updates the state of the blockchain. And so every node in the network has to do the same. Now, how do you get the data from the blockchain? So to get the data, it goes without saying, you actually have to enter that network to read and write data. But to enter the network, you actually have to spin up nodes. Now, here's an interesting thing. Like, this is the exact same thing with like Web2 and Web3. Like, it boils down to servers, and no one likes to run servers. No one wants to deal with servers. That's why AWS is a big thing, and Google Cloud is a big thing, right? Now, let's say like this is the only thing which gives you the connectivity to the blockchain, which is spinning up your own node. But then, I mean, Ethereum was actually formed or like founded for all of us, like for developers, for projects to run their own nodes and be like the owner of that stuff. But then there are some challenges with that. The first challenge is the node syncing takes time, because there are just a lot of things going on, and you have to maintain all of the states and all of these things. It takes time. I mean, OK, let's say you're building a fun weekend project. You can spin up one node. It's fine. But then let's say if you want to build project for like 10 and thousands of people, right? You have to add more nodes to it. You have to sync all of them. It will take time. It will take resources. It's costly as well. And then the other thing is like, I mean, regular maintenance is one thing for sure, but then nodes can go down anytime. And this, when this happens, that automatically means that any application, any dApp that is being built on that platform or using that RPCs, it's going to go down. Just like AWS, like if AWS shuts down, all the applications just go down. This is not what we want. This is not something that we want in Web3 for sure, because there's like a lot of risk involved. But what if this is how it looks like for developers, for teams, to set up a node? Just this one line, and you get connectivity with like Ethereum and like 30,000, like 30 different blockchain networks. And this is what we are doing. So this is basically the RPC endpoint. It's kind of an API in itself, and this is all you have to do. You have to like link this to your hard hat, like anything that the proper setup that you're doing. You just have to link this just link, and that's it. This is what you get as an RPC. So we are doing all the maintenance. You don't have to worry about maintenance. You don't have to worry about node syncing, time, expense, resources, anything. We do it for you. Now, I think decentralization has been the focus of Web3, but there's one other important aspect of it, is that we have to make sure that everything that we are doing is also globally distributed. AWS right now, it's not globally distributed. The servers are set up in US, like it's one part of the world. So if I am making requests, right, from, let's say, Dubai, or someone else is using the dApp, or like they are making requests from US, they're going to get higher throughput. And I don't want this thing, that this discrimination or this gap for my applications, for my network, or for my audience. How do we do that? And this is where Anchored does this thing right, which is like we make sure that our servers are not only community-owned, but it's also globally distributed. So we are our servers all around the world. We have like 30 different regions that we have set up. So this is basically what we do. First things first. So we provide this connectivity of blockchains to application builders, developers, and teams. So we have like 30 different blockchain networks that we have onboarded. So you can get RPCs, testnets, devnets, mainnet, anything. It's just one link, and you don't have to set up anything, and you don't have to worry about anything. So we understand what protocols are, what nodes are. So once you start using that link, you get data. That's one thing. Like, this is how you get data. This is how you read and write off of a blockchain. But the problem that comes here is that the data you're getting out of the nodes is basically a raw data. You can never query like, OK, hi node, can you give me, let's say, NFTs for my wallet and my friend's wallet and this and that? and it will give you something. Like, this is never going to happen. It's just raw data. So how do we make sure that developers are given this accessibility in like much more better way in terms of the UX and like the entire experience of building dApps? And this is where APIs comes in, a higher level interaction point. And it's not working anymore. Yeah, anyway. So basically, so what really happens is that we came up with this idea of like, okay, we have these RPC nodes, we have these connectivity points, but builders and developers need more from that. So we're like, okay, let's figure out what like most of the dApps, what kind of data most of the dApps require. And we categorized most of the data in like 3 buckets. First was NFT data, second was token data, and third was like querying data, which is like blocks and logs and all of that stuff, right? NFT data, why? It's like kind of like a soft onboarding tool because everyone owns. The NFT itself is a soft onboarding tool for like a lot of developers, a lot of users, a lot of people who are just trying to get into this space, like explore this space. And then we have token information that we absolutely need for like wallet connections, for making sure that you own something, for checking the identity and all of that stuff. And then we have query, which is like a generalized API where you can query like multiple things like events and this and that, and like blogs and logs and all of that stuff, like granular data. And so the slides are not working, which is kind of a bummer, but it's fine. It's fine. I think we can. Okay. Yeah. Oh, interesting. OK. And that's why we built this powerful APIs. We are calling it advanced APIs. And then we have, again, like why we have built this is just making sure that developers are not just giving this connectivity and then, okay, we have done our jobs. We want to make sure the developers are also shipping fast. And like for that to happen, developers need tools. And that's what we built. Again, like these are the APIs. These are the things that we categorize. I was like, NFT data is super important. Token is super important, like ERC tokens, ERC-721, and all of that stuff. And querying data, where like you get access to like multiple blockchains. Now, I think talking about this multi-chain concept, like access to multiple blockchains, one of the things that it's another problem. Like when we talk about like getting nodes, getting data out of a node, it's one thing that you're only getting raw data, but one of the other problems is that we have realized that developers want to interact with more than one blockchain. They don't want to interact with just Ethereum, right? So Ethereum itself is like hard to manage. But then let's say I'm like, OK, but I want to interact with like, because users are interacting with like more than one blockchains, right? So how do we get access to like all of these data? So we made sure these entry points are multi-chain as well. So with these APIs, you can get access of data from across 8 different blockchains. Right now, it's just EVM, but then we're going to add non-EVM chains and then testnets as well. So basically, this covers the chain, nodes, and APIs. So with APIs, you get like proper answers. So when you say, give me NFT data, or like NFT data, like all of the NFTs that a particular address is holding, you're going to get it in like the proper JSON format or whatever format you want. And this is how you build actual applications on top of data. So this is kind of the Web3 stack that not a lot of developers understand it. And I think this has been a super important resource. Like if you're just starting out, if you're just exploring, and you're just lost, because I was lost at one point. I was like, how do I query data off of a blockchain? Because in my head, I was like, OK, select all this. It didn't work. I was like, I have no idea where do I query stuff. But this is how things work, and this is how applications are being built. So again, we are Anchor. We are building decentralized Web3 infrastructure. We are supporting 30+ blockchain networks at this point. We are one of the biggest, largest providers in this space. And then we're making sure that there are developer tools available. And I would really want you all to just scan this code. It will lend you to our website. I really want you all to like use our product and roast it if that's possible. Because once developer roasted, we know how to build stuff. Like you guys are like guiding point, like focal point. You're like, okay, this data, it sucks. Like logos are not formatting, and like this is not coming in. It's not consistent. It's that and that. We want this stuff. And as a developer relation, I think my main focus has been the developer experience. I just want to make sure the developers are being given the right tool to make sure they're shipping fast. Also, I don't know how many of you all like are hacking next week. Raise your hand. No one? Oh, shit. OK. No way. All right. I'm hacking, so I'm using that. But if you're hacking, yeah, I am. Oh, cool. You want to join my team? We have space. Oh, OK. Fine. Fine. Awesome. I would love if you can use RPCs. We have Scroll. Like all of the sponsors, we are already supporting them. So you can use that. And if you feel like, oh, the user experience could be better in any way with APIs or RPCs or anything, like just let me know. I'll be around. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to take it if we have time.
We are out of time
Oh,
before our last talk, but
I'll be around
outside.
if you have any questions, so like feel free.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have any questions, again, like you can tweet at me at my Twitter account or just type in Anchor, which is ANKR. Anyways, thank you all for joining.
Thank you.